Okay, so welcome to the March meeting of the El Paso Trans-Pecos Audubon. We're lucky to have Koenig with us tonight, presenting about one of his trips to Costa Rica. I have to say one of, because he's been there a lot.
No, the second.
Okay, only second for Costa Rica. It's just he travels so much, it's hard to keep track of everything. So we'll let him take it away and amaze us with his great photography. Thanks.
Thank you. So if you guys can hear me, let me know. This is just a kind of travel log of how I organized the trip, where we went and what birds we saw. We went for 9 days, Gertrud and me and 2 friends from Ohio that usually travel with us to go birding. It works. So this is part of Central America, and Costa Rica has quite some mountainous area. About half of the country is high mountains. They go to at least 10,000 feet. And what I wanted to do is to go to various places. So I wanted to go, maybe I can show that here, to the Pacific side, which has a number of endemic birds. And the Atlantic side we went, and we also went into the high mountains, because also there we find different birds. And we also stayed 2 nights at a place halfway at 950 meters elevation, where you can expect to find both types of lowland and highland birds. So when we flew to San Jose, it's not a very long flight. We took a hotel only a few miles away from the airport. And also this hotel, Robledal, is a birding hotspot. They have nest boxes for the ferruginous pygmy owl. And we saw also on that evening we arrived, we saw one of them. That's the place. We rented a vehicle with high clearance, because the roads are not very good in Costa Rica. It's a small country, but you have to calculate it. You can do 25, 30 miles on average an hour. So this is the ferruginous pygmy owl we saw on the premises of the hotel. The owner of the hotel was interested in birds and in owls. And he also owned a property on the other side of the road where the hotel was on. But since there was a fence, he had to go all around. So he took me and 2 other guests to his property on the other side of the road to look for owls or other night active birds. So we saw 3 of the striped owls. The pictures are poor because they were taken just with a flashlight holding maybe 50 yards away. Double striped thickney and several paracas. They sit on the path usually, and they blend in very well with the environment. And we were lucky that the driver, the hotel owner, knows the birds, so he would not drive over them. The hotel itself, like most hotels in Costa Rica, they have feeders. Basically just hummingbird feeders, but many of them have a little display side with some branches where they put some mostly bananas or papaya or some other fruits on it. And since the birds know this, they always come every morning to check if there's any fruit available. This was a pair resident on the hotel premises. This the spot-breasted oriole, which has a quite large distribution on the Pacific side, mostly of Central America. But beautiful birds, very large oriole, and they were used to people, so that they were kind of easy to photograph. Another common bird there was the rufous snake wren. There were about 4 or 5 of them on the hotel property, and we saw them already the evening before. They mill around in the grass or in the trees, and they also are attracted by bananas and whatever fruit you put on the feeder. We saw many more birds, but I just want to give some of the highlights. So from there, we went to the Pacific side, to a park which is called Manuel Antonio. The park itself, we wanted to visit that the following day, but we heard from other people at the hotel that may not have been a very good idea, because, shall I admit, because there is only one trail in that park, and everybody from the environment, from the villages around, from the cities around, they go almost every day to the beach following that trail in the park. And that would be only trail to see also birds. So they said, oh, there's so many screaming kids, you will not see anything. So we just found some spots near the hotel, and we were pretty lucky in finding some of the species that we wanted to see. Well, driving down there, we came to a spot where we saw 4 swallowtail kites, and I photographed a number of them, and there was one that had captured a lizard, the very long tail, which he proceeded to eat in midair. So they don't need to sit down anywhere to eat something. So near the hotel, just in the back street or path, we found some Scarlet Macaws, which are, I would not say common, but we have seen it at many different places throughout Costa Rica. And this was one parent and a juvenile in the back that got fed by this that one parent. So this is an endemic to the Pacific side of Costa Rica. It looks very much like the colored aracari, which is found throughout most of Central America, even into Colombia, and perhaps even further south. But in the Pacific side of Costa Rica, there is another one species, the fiery-billed aracari, which is differentiated just by the upper mandible. The upper bill is has a different color, and also the band on the belly, it's all red on the fiery bill, while it is mostly black and narrower on the colored aracari. So that was an endemic from that side. We also found a lot of squirrel monkeys. There were probably 25, 30 of them in that same area. So then we went into the mountains, and because one of the target birds we wanted to see was the quetzal. And for the quetzal, you need to go at an elevation higher than 1,500 meters, because they feed on avocado and other fruits that look like avocados that only grow in in higher elevation. They need cold nights to grow. So we went into the mountains, and on that road where our hotel was, at the top of the road, you start at about 10,000 feet, and then you go down to about 7,000 feet. And quite high up is another birding hotspot, Miriam's restaurant. And this turned out to be one of the best spots in all of Costa Rica. It is just a simple, small restaurant. And in the back, they have a little balcony, and they have feeders, they have hummingbird feeders, and they throw food down. And there is like 30, 40 different species of birds all the time. And the best time is in the afternoon, then the sun is in the back, so it's easier to take decent photos if there is no cloud cover. And they don't demand anything, but we took a beer or a soup or whatever just to justify that we were all on the balcony photographing these birds. All the tour buses in Costa Rica, they make a stop at this restaurant. So once we drove by, there were two big buses with probably 25, 30 people in each of them. And they all crowded in on the back porch to look at the birds. Very common, the sparrow, rufous-colored sparrow. You find this bird at many different places all over Costa Rica. Very common there at Miriam's restaurant is the flame-colored tanager. It's not a rare bird at other places, but there were many of them there. And you can just wait till it sits somewhere to take a photo. That's the previous one was a male, this is a female. The Chlorospingus, there are several types. This is the sooty-capped Chlorospingus, also a common bird at that restaurant. We have seen it only at one other place in Costa Rica. And of course, very common is the clay-colored thrush, the national bird actually of Costa Rica. So we have so many colorful birds, but they have this bird as a national bird because when it is going to breed in April or something around that time, it changes the song. It is a very beautiful song, and for that reason, they choose that bird as their national bird. But this one you also find in South Texas and probably in Colombia, I don't remember. Mountain thrush, also common in the mountains of Central America. And another one that I hadn't seen before, the sooty thrush, almost black bird with a nice yellow bill and also a yellow eye ring. Very nice looking bird. And of course, there were 4 different hummingbirds. This is probably the most common there, the lesser violet ear. It's a small hummingbird. Both males and females look like this, I believe. Then a much bigger bird is the Talamanca hummingbird. It's a much bigger hummingbird, makes a lot of noise when flying, and mostly has control of the feeder. There were 3 feeders, and the Talamanca, they were in control of them, and only when they would leave, then others were allowed in to feed. Beautiful bird, but if it looks sideways, it's all black. You don't see any color. And the most beautiful of them is the fiery-throated hummingbird. Beautiful bird. Again, when you see it sideways, it's all black. But when you see light reflected in the right way, it has all colors of the rainbow on that bird. It's beautiful. Also a large hummingbird. And a tiny one related to our little calliope hummingbird is the volcano hummingbird. This is a male, And the females, they don't have this, this purplish origin. A lot of other sparrows. This is the large-footed finch. It's not really a finch, it's a passerelle. Difficult to photograph because they're always on the ground, and at one point there was one on a branch. So my friend and I, we started clicking, and we have all the same pictures of the same bird. Because you kind of look down on the birds on the ground from your little patio there. Another interesting bird is the yellow-thighed brush finch, because it has those yellow thighs. All black bird with yellow thighs. We have seen it at other locations as well. They're all about the same size, a little bit bigger than a house finch, perhaps. Beautiful Orophonia is a female. We didn't see a male. The males are yellow on the belly. Beautiful bird, striking color. This is the golden brow Orophonia. And they fed on little berries that hang from some shrub near the restaurant. There's a warbler, flame-throated warbler, beautiful little bird, very actively moving around. Nice bird to see. So then we went further down the road to our hotel, was Sueños del Bosque. That's the only hotel we have stayed at that didn't have any feeders. But there were plenty of birds around. And the hotel that we wanted to stay in, Hotel Savegre, didn't have any rooms available on the dates that we were there. But they were just 100 yards away down the road, so we walked there, and they have feeders to photograph birds. This is the white-throated mountain gem, beautiful medium-sized hummingbird. This is females. Only the females mostly get them feeders. And the males are all blue, or mostly blue, and they don't come to feeders. They only feed in their territory from flowers. Another little bird is red star. There's a colored red star. Was fighting itself every day in the window of the restaurant of the hotel. Every day you could walk up to where he was and he would be there fighting himself in the reflection of the glass. Nice little bird. That is the other hotel, 100 yards up the road, Hotel Savegre, and they have an extensive trail system that goes all the way up, and which you can walk or drive, but it was kind of busy. So a lot of people, and sometimes also by car going up. But just at the main building, behind the main building, they had the feeders where you could see the hummingbirds. And again, there's less of violet here. Was common, the Talamanca, but also this flower piercer, slaty flower piercer. They have this weird upper bill that puncture a hole in the base of the flower and then suck out the nectar like that. You can see that is the hole that he just punctured to suck the nectar out. A tiny, tiny bird. It's a tanager, it's a trout-pit in the same family as tanagers. So we did walk some on the trail, And suddenly we got upon a group of these wood quails that were just milling about on the side of the trail. We were here and they were just 5 feet away, doing their business, looking for worms or whatever. It was very dark, so it was not easy to take photos. But there were 4 or 5 of them together. And sometimes when they were fighting over the same worm, then they would raise their crest. They have this, this yellow crest, really a very nice bird. They're a little bit bigger than our gamble quail here. But it's a bird from the forest and usually in very shady areas. So here's again that road that we did. We started from the main road, you go down. The main road is at almost 10,000 feet. And then Miriam's restaurant is at 8,800 feet. And our hotel was at 7,200 feet. So our friends, they had been there a few years ago in April, and they said, oh, we saw the quetzal right at Savegre Hotel. You go up this trail, and that's where they are. But we went there, and there were no quetzals, because the quetzal eats this fruit, specific fruit. Also, in the avocado is in the same family, and they ripen at a certain time of year. And the higher you get, the later in the year the fruits are ripe. So you have to know where are the ripe fruits, because there you will find the quetzal. So we took a guide the following day to show us the quetzals, because the guides know, of course, where they are. So we went to this area at 2,500 meters, where the fruits were ripe, and we did see some quetzals, but very, very far away. So this is a blown up photo from a quetzal who was a mile away in the tree. But okay, we now knew that is the area where you can find them at this time of year. It was in January. We were lucky that there was a whole flock or gaggle, whatever you call it, of black swans, which were much easier to approach, to take photos of. So it was also a lifer, it was good for me. So the rest of the day, we went back south again, and we went to Batsu Garden. This is just a place set up for photographers. You pay $20 a person. You can stay 3 hours. You could stay longer because there were nobody following us to take photos. So these are the feeders. These are just branches stuck into in a holder, and they put bananas, but they also put some moss on the branches so it looks kind of natural. And they had several spots like this, and they had hummingbird feeders. We wanted to go the day before, but it was all booked out, because when there's more than 12 people, then they don't want more to be in the garden. And well, there's coffee and water and beer in the fridge there, and you just sit there and wait for the birds to come. It was very nice. The silver-throated tanager is kind of common throughout the area, was also on these feeders. So this is all kind of man-made. They put some moss on, and then it will grow a little bit to give it a more natural look. There's the yellow-thighed brush finch in the grass looking for seeds. Chestnut-capped brush finch, very nice looking bird. We only saw it there at this Betsu garden. And another shot of this fiery-throated hummingbird. Also, those 4 different hummingbirds were there. But while we were at Miriam's restaurant, because we went there 3 times, we got to talk with guides that will bring all the people to Miriam's restaurant. And we also asked them where is a good place to see the quetzal. And they say, well, there is this place called Casa Monge, and they should be there. And they had been there every morning. So it is just a private area. The lady who owns the place showing on $6 per person to be there in the morning. So the last morning, we said, okay, let's go there. Maybe we get closer to the quetzal. And we were very lucky because what a quetzal does is when it wakes up, it goes looking for those fruits. It eats one of those fruits, swallows it, and then it takes about 20 minutes for it to digest and to get the pit out, and then spit out the pit. And during those 20 minutes, it sits at one spot, unless you chase it. So it sits there for 20 minutes, well, 10 to 20 minutes, just kind of ruminating or whatever, digesting that fruit. And this male decided to sit on that branch right in the view where we were. So we didn't move, and the bird didn't move. We got about 50 shots of the same bird in the same position. They're spectacular birds, and they're pretty big. I mean, with the tail, I would say 2 feet. And then, of course, the guides tell you the tail, these are not really tail feathers, these are upper cover feathers of the tail. So the white stuff is the tail, and the feathers that extend beyond that, those are upper cover tails. Feathers. Really nice bird. And later on, we also found a pair that was preparing to nest. They nest in all the woodpecker, the holes in trees, and this is a female, was far away, but there was a male and a female together, very close to a hole in the tree, and the male had been seen putting some grass in that hole. But it was far away, and that's the only shot of a female that I have. The females don't have that long tail feathers. So when you look on eBird on Costa Rica and you look, what is the #1 hotspot in Costa Rica? That is Rancho Naturalista, which is a ranch house and several cabins on a pretty large private area. And I forgot how many species, but over 400 species of birds have been reported from this Rancho Naturalista. The only problem for us was it is $400 a night. So it is for retired surgeons and heads of state and stuff like that. So we decided 2 nights is gonna be the max. So we stayed 2 nights. It is about halfway the highlands and the lower elevations at 950 meters. And Yeah, they have feeders, several feeders on the back of the main building. And then you have 3-4 guys, they put out bananas, like 25 bananas. 2 minutes later, you have 25 chachalacas, and another 5 minutes later, those bananas are gone. So then they have to put more food out for other birds. There's the gray-headed chachalaca. There's 5 different chachalacas in Central America. Common also in Mexico. The red-billed pigeon is also common there. On our feeders, we have the white-winged dove that eats most of the food. It's the chachalacas there, but the pigeons also know a way with it. The white-tipped dove is also common there. And very common throughout Costa Rica, the Montezuma Oropenda. Everywhere you get out of the car and you hear them already, the very specific sound where the males, they dive down from the branch. And of course, they come to feeders as well as the chestnut-headed Oropenda. There are several tanagers, not very colorful as the white-line tanager. Females are reddish brown all over. The males are black with a little bit of white on the wings. The black striped sparrow, mostly a bottom-oriented sparrow, also common. Beautiful, not so common, but very attractive sparrow, the orange-billed sparrow. Very nice bird. And the scarlet-rumped tanager, we have seen probably at every spot where we stopped. It's a very common bird. Pitch black with that orange-red, the scarlet on the rump. And they can also show it to impress other males. Females, they look like this. Not unattractive for a female bird. A nice small finch, olive-backed Orophonia. We usually saw just a pair, a male and a female, and then they would disappear. Maybe another pair would show up, but never in bigger numbers. And of course, hummingbirds, the green-breasted mango, there's a female. That's a male. Both are common at the hotel. There's a agouti, small little rodent. So in the shrubs, you would find a toady flycatcher, tiny little flycatcher, but it usually stays in the shrub, rarely comes out of the thickets. Another one of the outside of the shrubs is the banana quid. It feeds on nectar. Sorry. There were several areas of this Rancho Naturalista where you could walk to, but better drive to, because it was a big area where you could see different birds. So we saw this colored aracari away from the main building. And a number of other birds. Groove-billed ani, very common, kokok. And the pale-billed woodpecker, beautiful woodpecker with all red head. But the other target bird we had was this one, the sunbittern. It doesn't like the sun, and it is not a bitter, it is in its own family. And it was reported from that area, and there were like even mounted wings of the sunbittern. There were paintings of sunbittern in Rancho Naturalista, but on their property there is no sunbittern. The lady told us, so that's where you have Rancho Naturalista, that area, and most of that dark green belongs to that ranch. And the lady said, well, you have to go to a little stream right there, because there you may see them. And in fact, we did see them. But while we were there, we met a person who was also photographing the sunbitterns. And I said, oh, did you get it? I said, oh, yeah, no problem. It turns out that he was the owner of this lodge, this Arthur de Puma's birding lodge. And he has a very large property, larger than Rancho Naturalista. And he has a little stream in there, and he said there are 3 pairs on my stream. So we also visited that place, and it turns out to be actually a better spot than Rancho Naturalista. But anyway, back to the sunbitter. This bird is about, I would say, 1.5 feet. Beautiful bird. I was hoping to let you hear the sound of the bird. Because it has a very eerie, very high-pitched voice, and you would think it's a small little bird that is singing, but it's this big bird. And it is a sunbitter because when it spreads the wings, oh, there we go. Is that weird for this big bird? When it spreads the wings, it has this sun on the wings. It's really remarkable bird. Beautiful bird. We saw about 5 of them. So our last hotel was Arabigua. That's the Latin name of the great green macaw. We saw 4 of them just passing by. So no decent photo of it. But it's a very rare macaw. But the hotel itself is a very good spot for birders if you're interested in photographing the birds, because they have feeders. And on the way up there, we went to a place called Sarapiki Birding. There's just a person in his home. He has a little, he has a natural area behind his home, and he made just a seating area where you could see the birds for $20 a person. And he also made these branches with moss on it. So we saw some more birds there. The black-headed saltator, another tanager, the crimson-colored tanager. We've also seen that in southern Mexico, so there's a wider distribution. Again, the chestnut-headed Oropendula, the Montezuma Oropendula, and also this black-cheeked woodpecker. And there were 4 russet-necked wood rails right in front of the property. It was not really a good place for photographing birds because he had shrubs about this high in front of where the birds were. So you need to get birds, go up to the branch, then you can photograph that. But the wood rail, they were down there, and you could only take a photo when it would jump up somewhere. Picture it. So that's the Arambigua Lodge. It has many different cabins. And this is the main building with a restaurant, and it has no windows, and it opens just to their garden, and they have put feeders in there. But around the hotel, the yellow-throated toucan, or the old-fashioned chestnut mandible toucan, was kind of common. We saw it every day. And this is on the feeding. We called it always the studio, because you just wait with a beer on the table till the birds come in front of you to photograph. It's the great Kiskadee, palm tanager, very common. Beautiful, the red-legged honeycreeper. There's a wide distribution in Central America. Spectacular little bird. It's only a little like this. It's also tropid, tanager type. The females have still the red legs, but are greenish with black wings. Another one is the green honeycreeper. The males are this turquoise blue, but it is the female that are spectacular green. It's really. And they would come every day to the feeder, so you just have to wait and ask the people to fill up the bananas on the feeder, because you have also like the Oropendulas, they eat a lot of bananas, they take a half banana away. So in that area, we went to several other spots. This is on the road to La Selva. There's a research station. We have been there several years ago. It was very good for birds. We just went into the road up to the research station. We didn't want to go in. And it was not very birdy, but we found this chestnut color, the woodpecker. And while we were waiting and photographing this bird, maybe for 15 minutes, it dug this hole in 15 minutes. It started with nothing, then it flew up with nothing. And then it started, and in the end, it had a hole this deep into the tree. So probably preparing for a nest. It was amazing. Smoky brown woodpecker. So on the last day, because our flight was in the afternoon, and we figured it's only 2 hours drive, and we leave early from Arambigua, and we go through the mountains, we pass by another birding hotspot, it's Mirador Chinchona, where they have again different birds because it's high up in the mountains. So we did that. We didn't want to stay too long because our flights were later and we still had to get the COVID test done and everything. So, but it worked out. It's just a restaurant, and there's a kind of large balcony. And these are the feeders, or here. The view is on a very large waterfall in the distance, but we were more focused on the birds. There were many Baltimore orioles there. You see them throughout Costa Rica, but there were many there, maybe on their way up to the US. And there were several emerald toucanettes there, all attracted by the bananas or whatever fruit they put out. And I believe that is the last picture. Thank you. I'm sorry for my work.
I have a question.
Yes?
What camera and lens did you use?
It's the Nikon 200-500 millimeter.
The Nikon 200, what camera body did you have?
The 7200, Nikon 7200.
Are you using a flash?
No.
Do you crop your photos or were you that close?
No, I cropped the photos.
The detail on those feathers.
Yeah, well, if you're sitting here and the bird is there on the feeder, you can take 50 shots and then choose one that's nice in the photos.
Do you edit your photos on Lightroom?
On?
Lightroom?
No, on Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Yes.
Did you drive?
I drove, yeah. No, it goes slow. The distances are maybe 60, 70 miles maximum between those points. So, but you have to go up and down. And they don't make roads like switchbacking going up. They make them straight up. And our car at one point, we were not going to make it, but we just made it, going out of the valley. But it works.
I think you're a brave man.
Pardon?
I think you're a very brave man. We've been twice, but we did not drive ourselves.
So you didn't do a tour company, you just went on your own?
Yes.
And you take all of your spots based on what you heard from Eber?
Well, that Rancho Naturalista that I got from our friends, because they had a friend who stayed there. They said, oh, you have to stay there. They didn't tell us it was that expensive. Because this Arta de Plumas, which is a better spot, is only 138 a night, if you would have known.
Did you make arrangements with your lodging?
Yeah, I booked them all beforehand here. And also the car rental I did here, because you need to get a little bit high clearance vehicle, so we go to RAV4, because especially that road to Rancho Naturalista, you cannot take with a regular car. But the roads themselves, most of the roads are pretty good. They're, even when it is a dirt road, it's still level, but just the last little bit that can be rough.
Not yet. Have a lot. I have a question. Did you have a favorite bird?
Come again?
Did you have a favorite bird that you saw?
My favorite bird.
Your favorite
My
bird?
favorite bird. They're difficult.
One of your favorites.
No, I think the sunbittern.
Yeah. The fact that you got a picture with the wings,
Yeah.
that's rare.
Yeah. Actually, the owner of that hotel, Arta de Plumas, he also has feeders and so on. We went to his place. He said, you have to get a picture of this bird in flight. So he said, we go to that little stream where we saw them. And he said, oh yeah, I see 3 of them. I go to the other side, and when they see me, they probably move to you. And we are standing on the bridge. And indeed, 2 of the birds, they flew under the bridge. And just before they landed, I could take a picture.
Wow.
You have to be lucky because you have only one chance. But yeah, that was a really spectacular bird, especially the sound. You could hear it. You would all walk up and you hear this. It was weird.
All right, well, thanks again.
You're welcome.
All right, well, thanks everybody who managed to be online. We're gonna end the meeting, so hope everybody had a good time.
Thank
and
you.
We will talk to you all later.